with the Yakuza who are coming in town, with the Mafia, with all the different, just different, criminal groups. They all visit him. He shows them this.
Everyone responds well to a mouse maze. Everyone understands it.
I mean, it's fun to watch. Like, put money on who gets through the fastest, right?
Well, he really doesn't seem to pay much attention, does he? He really just wants you to watch him put them in the maze, and then he's going to wax poetic about how, no, we don't kill them.
Look back at me. Some guy, though, Nathan Rabin, not some guy, but he was writing about this movie, and he said something really random, and I want to see what you think about it. He said that Jack Palance delivers all of his lines as if he's in the midst of a powerful orgasm.
That's okay. I appreciate that cheeky exaggeration. I would say that he always seems like a supernatural villain who thinks in the moment of every sentence that his plan is just coming to fruition. But I totally get what this guy is saying. That's the kind of thing I'd have fun writing in a review, I think.
Yeah.
I totally get where he's coming from there. But yeah, when he's talking, though, he is reveling in his own sermon. It's like he can't believe how impressed he is with the words coming out of his mouth and how satisfied he is that he's certain that this is all going to work out so perfectly. Like, well, what happens when they eventually get out of prison? What makes you think they'll ever get out? Like, he's always just so on point. He's like Skeletor in Masters of the Universe.
Yes. He's doing a Frank Langella.
He is doing summer stock Shakespeare, and no one else got the memo.
He's in another movie entirely in this. And it's just, I know the phrase has been beat to death, but he really did just turn it up to 11. But you also have to think about this guy. He had $1 billion in cocaine caught in a truck. $1 billion. $1 billion, John. Who, okay.
If he was not hedging his bets.
No, you should have separated that between 10 trucks. You should have. You should have put in your Undertaker or Gravedigger monster truck and gone through the back roads.
I'd like to add to that. So if he drove by, presumably within an hour, right? Because it was the crime scene, within an hour or so of the crime scene. Remember, he drove by in his limo. If he was close enough by to do that drive-by, did he suspect that his plan was going to be foiled with $1 billion in cocaine?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, he must have. It seems like a kind of cartoon world, John, where Cash gets 30 million of his cocaine here. Tango gets 40 million of his cocaine here. Cash goes and gets 10 million over here. It's like a comic thing where they just keep grabbing his cocaine. Like, these kids are always getting my cocaine. It's okay. Here's $1 billion of cocaine that he has paid for. This man, Eves, is the lead drug dealer in the United States.
At the time, I mean, almost certainly, if that's that's wholesale, Mark.
Yeah.
That's wholesale. The street value is probably going to be 8-10 fold. I realize he has overhead, right?
Well, but his RV army.
Right. I don't know what it costs to like run AC in that huge lair, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
In LA, but that's his power bill aside. He's clearly got an overhead, but he's got to be grossing like 10-fold that, right? I don't know my drug economics well. Maybe it's 5-fold that, but like $5 billion, and maybe he ends up netting $3 or $4 billion or more. I don't know how this works.
Yeah, even if you pull in $2 billion, you're pretty much set, right?
I mean, I'm just struggling to understand how he'd have $1 billion in overhead.
Imagine this, John. You're John, the cocaine man, Levingood. You start working out of Tampa, Florida. You eventually expand over into St. Pete. Then you get a hold in Tarpon Springs to get some boats through the Gulf. Then you kind of expand a little bit. Oh, I'm very Florida right now. Then you go, over to like Lakewood, Lakeland. You go south a little bit to Sarasota, eventually make your way to Miami. You get to Jacksonville, you get to Tally. You have all the major cities in Florida. Naples, you are the person. If one of your trucks with $1 billion of cocaine is taken, you're out of business.
Well, I mean, I don't know how you had that money to get it in the first place. So I imagine I don't care how rich he is. He leveraged that, and Colombians or whoever are giving him this, and he is going to sell it and then pay them, I think, what he owes them. I have a feeling that the story that's not being told here is that he's in big trouble if this doesn't work out for him.
Yeah.
And realistically, it didn't work out because the drugs were seized.
Yep, does not work out.
I feel like he's getting assassinated by a hit squad of Colombians.
And he paid an assassin to attack Cash.
I'm not saying he wasn't talented.
Extremely talented.
To a layperson, but as far as eliminating someone who cost you $1 billion, well, actually, that wasn't him, but that was Sly who did it. By the way, someone who is such a financial threat to you, I feel like he should have been upping the game a little more.
Mm-hmm. And didn't that assassin shoot him exactly in his bulletproof vest so that he would go to a prison and be tortured and give him that name to then get them to the site to be arrested together?
Was that the case?
Yeah.
See, it felt like he was trying to kill him, but what you're saying makes a lot of sense to the story.
Because he went, oh, my vest. Oh, man, this is a $9 shirt. And then they gave him a name. So, okay, nobody knew who Jack Palance's character was. Nobody. They didn't even know his name. So if they hired an assassin, that assassin had Cash dead to rights. Had him. Lift that bullet up 5 inches. Boom. Shoot him in the leg. He's that good of a shot. Shoot him in the leg, in an artery. Boom. Done. Man, who cares if the cop force makes them martyrs? You're not losing $30 million, $50 million, $1 billion anymore.
$1 billion. So I had an observation, and the first time I rewatched this of several times in preparation for our recording here. So in the very beginning of the movie, Stallone's driving along, right? He's going to go do this bust. He's being warned that he's almost out of his jurisdiction, right? Now, eventually, he shoots up the truck. For some reason, it comes to a halt, by the way. I don't know why it didn't run right over him. Even if he blew the tires, I think he'd be roadkill. But that aside, he shoots it out. Eventually, the sheriff shows up. It is revealed that he, in fact, was out of his jurisdiction.
Yep.
I want your badge. Well, guess what? In 1989 cop movies, in the 80s cop movies, all of our main cops, they're doing things out of their jurisdiction, right? Die Hard, all of our cops. Lethal Weapon, they skirt some lines too, right? Mel Gibson in Part 2 with the South African people who all have diplomatic immunity. He is pulling some fireable shenanigans left and right. And it's the kind of thing where this compromises the case and they get off. So when he does this, if this was a 2021 movie, a 2021 movie, would they just get off because he was out of his jurisdiction and they never had any right to search and seizure? And now he just assaulted somebody out of his jurisdiction and caused woeful harm to them. He's going to jail. He's out of a job and going to jail for that. And they're like, no, you can't touch these guys. You never had a right to search anything. And then they get off. Like in a modern movie, the cops are always getting horribly punished. And the most dangerous criminals are being set free. And that's the beginning of the movie, right? Where the criminals are going free because the cops didn't follow the rules. In old movies, this clearly a glowing example. Our cops are always breaking the rules. But, as long as we found what we were looking for, it doesn't set a good modern example, does it? As long as we found what we were looking for, everything's fine. It's an interesting thing to reflect on. But the cop movies of our youth, anyway, I can't speak for all of our listeners, are setting the example that breaking the rules is okay as long as your assumption was correct. And in reality, that's how bad guys get off.
That's funny because you see so many movies where you're out of your league and then they shoot it and the cocaine comes out, or they smack something and it comes out when they're all out of their jurisdiction. Those guys would go free unless the cop said you were never here. We found this, and then there's a cover up that happens, which could get ugly. But that taught bad lessons. You're out of your jurisdiction, but if you can catch $1 billion in cocaine, $1 billion in cocaine.
And with what he did to those guys in that truck, he broke his leg, his ribs, and his jaw.
Yeah.
Robert Zadar, when he flew through that windshield. When the sheriff comes up and they see this LA cop, it's like, you're getting cuffed. You will never get to shoot that truck to reveal that there were drugs. And they checked the other chambers, and they didn't find drugs. So you're just going to jail. The prisoners are getting off.
Yep.
And now any investigation in the future is hampered because of how horribly this was handled. It's an interesting thing. I'm not trying to say I don't love the way that it played out, but it's funny just putting a remotely realistic lens. And I'm not trying to make these movies realistic. That's not what's fun.
This is the Last Action Hero world right here.
Kind of, yeah. Right? Because whatever. That there is one tough cop.
Yeah. The chief yells at him for a while.
What a line of the 80s and early 90s, too, by the way.
Yeah. The chief yells at him for a little bit. You know how many rules you broke? You're going to go under for this. You're going to get your badge. You're going to do this. But it's a good thing you're a good cop and you found $1 billion of cocaine. Now get out of here. I don't want to see your face again. Hey, that sounds like every chief in a cop movie.
Well, that was Arnold Schwarzenegger's chief.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In Last Action
it.
Hero.
Oh, I love it.
It's Joe Pantaleone in Bad Boys.
Yeah. Woosah. Playing bad basketball and doing all that. Yeah, you guys broke every rule. Oh, it's paperwork we're going to have to do. Oh, man.
Speaking of Bad Boys, do you think that Sylvester Stallone influenced the Mike Lowry character?
I'm Mike Lowry. Oh.
A wealthy, well-dressed guy who just likes the action, doesn't need the money at all, puts himself at risk, doesn't have a family. His own nuclear family.
Yeah, and he has a sister. Right?
Yes.
No, is that Gabrielle Union? Or is that, whose sister is that?
Gabrielle Union was Martin Lawrence's sister. But still, similar scenario, right? Like, that's a very Mike Lowry character. We didn't have characters like that. Although Dolph Lundgren in the original Punisher kind of seemed like it. That guy had a very posh apartment.
Yeah.
That didn't get explained.
Like I was just thinking about that too. Showdown Little Tokyo, but that was 91. So this is 89. And if we think about the cop movies, we had Danny Glover trying to fix his boat. We had Mel Gibson living in a trailer on the beach. In 48 Hours, they weren't wealthy. Axel Foley never had any of that. This is what a interesting role to play, John. You're just the best cop in the world, and you're also a millionaire. And he's not very nice to his sister. He's not.
I think I think that there was kind of like a raising his little sister dynamic. So he's like kind of big brother, but kind of like pseudo dad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got that vibe too.
He clearly doesn't approve of what she's doing because she calls it a dance tour. I don't know what this dance tour was, but we kind of see her being what I will call a clothes on showgirl.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fair. It's almost like going to a cabaret club or something, and she's doing her little drum show and everything, but all the guys there are there because they want to hoot and holler.
They are very supportive in that club.
Seems like it.
There's
the bartender?
But also he did make that guy wait 15 minutes for beer, though. Like, that's a long wait. I've been waiting 15 minutes. That really, there's so many extra characters in this movie, right? So, in the beginning, we have all the cops yelling at Stallone. There's so many cops. I feel like there's 40 cops yelling at Stallone. Though. Hey, Rambo's a wimp. Then you have the car park chase with the couple in the car, and then the guy who got his car stolen. And then there's just so many different characters in the prison. You have the guy with the jaw. I have his name. You have the guy with
Robert Zadar is the actor.
Yeah, you have him in there. Then you have Breon James. Like there's other characters, and then
Clint Howard.
Yeah, Clint Howard as Slinky. Then they get out, and then they have the Q guy. Then they have the guy that falsified the audio. Then you have the other cop. It's just, and then you have the smacking gum cop. There's just so many. Then you have James Hwang in here, and the other guy that he's with, who the other criminal leader. I mean, it's just, there are so many. I think it's Mark Alamo, who plays Lopez. I think that's the guy's name. You have so many extra characters. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that, but there's just so many extra, people. You have Jack Palance.
I wouldn't have thought of it until you brought it up. I wouldn't have thought of it until you just brought it up, but it makes total sense.
I know a good movie, you have good supporting characters. But this one, it just feels like there's so many, John. So many people have lines.
Well, I mean, you got the corrupt police captain.
Yep.
You've got Jeffrey Lewis was there